You could live your entire life without ever coming close to the Arctic. But beneath that thick, bone-chilling ice, in a place of endless white with no clear end or beginning, there exist creatures unlike anything you've ever imagined. They don't just survive in conditions where humans can barely last minutes. They rule it, silently, invisibly, as if they were ghosts from another era, gliding through centuries without leaving a trace. No noise, no warmth, just a slow, cold presence that outlasts everything. Among them is a creature that seems like it was pulled straight from prehistory, the Greenland shark. Some call it the immortal predator. Not because it can't die, but because it lives so long that the concept of death begins to blur. There are individuals that may have been born before Newton discovered gravity, before humans truly understood the shape of the Earth. And yet, they're still alive, drifting deep beneath frozen waters, in darkness untouched by sunlight. It's not fast, not aggressive. It doesn't rely on speed or brute force to dominate its world. And it likely doesn't need to see. Many Greenland sharks are infested with parasites wrapped around their eyes, tiny worm-like creatures that leave them blind or nearly so. And yet, they survive. They hunt, they grow, year after year, through centuries. And they move through the deep with the patience of something that no longer measures life in decades. Its lifespan puzzled scientists for years. Traditional methods of aging fish didn't work. No bones, no visible growth rings. Nothing solid to measure. Eventually they turned to the eye lens, the one part of the shark's body that never changes. And what they found was staggering. A Greenland shark nearly 5 meters long may have been born in the early 1600s. That means it lived through world wars, climate shifts, the rise and fall of empires. It has existed through eras we only read about in history books. But it remained the same, drifting quietly beneath the ice, untouched. But the Greenland shark isn't terrifying only because of its age. Some theories suggest it's a scavenger, feeding on carcasses that drift to the ocean floor. But there have been discoveries, bones of seals and fragments of reindeer in its stomach. Creatures that lived on ice, far from the depths. How does a blind shark catch prey like that? Has anyone ever seen it hunt? No, because it doesn't leave a trace. No one witnesses its attack. It just happens. The world beneath the Arctic ice is unlike any other. No sunlight, temperatures just above freezing, silence so complete, it's almost physical. And in that frozen void, the Greenland shark drifts like a spirit out of time. It doesn't migrate, it rarely moves. In a year it might only swim a few dozen kilometers, so slow it seems frozen itself. But it doesn't need to rush, it has centuries to wait. And here's the most unnerving truth. It's still down there, so you won't see it from the surface. It doesn't breach the water. It doesn't splash or stir the ice. But if you ever swim in the Arctic waters, somewhere far beneath you, a pair of clouded eyes may be watching your every move. Not to strike, just to observe, as it has done to thousands before you, as it will to thousands more after. It doesn't need to fight to survive. Nothing kills it. Time is its only enemy, and even time seems powerless in the place it calls home. No current sweeps it away. No cold can freeze it. It doesn't even mature quickly, taking up to 150 years to reach reproductive age, which only raises more questions. If it takes over a century to mate, to feel the stir of instinct, does the Greenland shark remember every scent? Every brush with blood, every pang of hunger for hundreds of years? No one knows, because it reveals nothing. Every rare sighting is fleeting, and then it vanishes, diving deeper, becoming nothing once more. But its presence lingers like nature, whispering a warning. Not all predators roar. Some drift through time. You might never see it, but it was there long before you. It's most likely it'll still be there, as long after you're gone. There's something deeply unsettling about predators that don't chase, that don't roar or sprint or tear through the wild in a frenzy of blood and noise. The Arctic doesn't allow for chaos. It rewards silence, patience, precision. And the more you look into its frozen heart, the more you realize its deadliest hunters aren't always the ones with fangs out and claws bared. Sometimes they're just watching, waiting, invisible until the exact moment they strike. Just when you think the Greenland shark is the most eerie predator the Arctic has to offer, another shape looms out of the frost. The polar bear. White, massive, and seemingly majestic, till you understand what it's truly capable of. The polar bear isn't just the largest land carnivore on Earth. It's the embodiment of solitary power. It hunts in silence, kills with minimal motion, and never makes the same mistake twice. Its fur looks pure white, but in truth, it's translucent. Beneath that deceptive coat lies black skin designed to absorb and trap every shred of heat in an unforgiving world. Its paws are massive, not just for distributing weight on ice, but for muffling each step. A full-grown male can weigh up to 700 kilograms, yet move with the silence of falling snow. Even the ice doesn't creak beneath it when it's hunting. But what makes the polar bear so fearsome is its method. It doesn't run down its prey. It stalks, it waits, and it plans. One of its most terrifying hunting strategies is called the still hunt. The bear locates a breathing hole used by seals, lies flat, perfectly still, sometimes 4 hours, and waits. In the dead silence, in temperatures that could kill a human in minutes, the bear remains motionless, not twitching, not blinking, just breathing slowly as frost gathers on its eyelashes. And when the seal finally surfaces for air, it's over in seconds. Flash of white, a crunch of bone, and then nothing but red blooming across the ice. The bear doesn't eat right away. It often drags its kill away out of sight and begins to feed only when it knows the ice around it is stable and it won't be challenged. There are no theatrics, just survival. Executed with the cold efficiency of an apex predator that has adapted over millennia to the most brutal conditions on Earth. But perhaps the most terrifying thing about polar bears is that they're not afraid of us. Unlike other wild animals that flee from human presence, polar bears investigate. They approach. They've been known to follow the scent of campfires, of cooking meat, of breath. Explorers in the Arctic have reported the same chilling phenomenon, waking up to silence, in the sense that something large is just outside their tent, sniffing, circling, waiting. In 2011, a group of campers in Norway's Svalbard archipelago experienced the horror firsthand. A polar bear tore into their camp at dawn, killing one teenager and injuring 4 others. The bear wasn't starving. It wasn't provoked. It simply did what it was built to do: detect, approach, strike. No sound, no warning. It came from the dark and vanished into it just as fast. Unlike the Greenland shark, which stays out of sight and out of mind, the polar bear exists at the edge of our world. You could see it from a ship. You could cross paths with it on a frozen ridge. But don't let the soft fur and slow gait fool. Youth is a creature that's never had a natural predator. It doesn't understand fear. It doesn't understand hesitation. And in the right conditions, it won't see you as a person, just protein. And here's the irony. The polar bear is as much a victim as it is a hunter. Climate change is melting the sea ice it depends on to hunt seals. With less ice, it must swim longer distances, often with cubs clinging to its back, sometimes losing them to exhaustion or drowning. Starvation is becoming more common. And that's the part that should terrify us most, not what polar bears are now, but what they might become when desperation replaces patience. Some have already begun raiding human settlements, garbage dumps, even entering towns. There's footage, silent, grainy, from a remote Arctic research outpost, showing a polar bear walking upright through a snowstorm, its breath fogging the lens of a security camera. It pauses at a door, sniffs, and moves on. You can almost feel its intelligence through the screen. This isn't random, it's searching. You might think that the Arctic is too far, too cold, too remote to matter, but predators don't recognize borders. And when the ice disappears, when the seals vanish, and hunger sets in, the line between their world and ours begins to blur. What do you do when a creature evolved for death and silence starts walking into your space? You don't hear it coming. You don't see it from afar. One moment, it's wind and snow. The next, it's the rise locked onto you, unblinking, patient. There are no growls, no roars, just the sound of breath in frozen air, and the knowledge that you're being hunted by something that never had to learn fear. In the Arctic, the scariest things are not what you see. It's what you never hear until it's too late. Beneath the seemingly frozen, motionless ice lies another kind of predator, one you rarely see, but whose presence is impossible to ignore once you know it exists. Not all Arctic hunters are massive and obvious. Some live in the darkest depths, in waters so cold and deep that light hasn't touched them in millennia. And maybe because we've never truly seen them, we fear them even more. Because what we can't see, we can't control. Now imagine a creature with arms longer than a city bus, eyes the size of dinner plates, designed to catch the faintest flicker of light in a world of total darkness. No one's ever seen one alive in its natural habitat, not fully. But we know it's there, thanks to the deep circular scars left on the flesh of something equally terrifying: the sperm whale. Those scars are the only proof we have of a creature that seems like it doesn't belong in our world at all, the giant Arctic squid. This isn't a myth, not a sailor's ghost story. For centuries, Nordic mariners spoke in hushed voices about sea monsters with tentacles large enough to wrap around ships, dragging men into the depths. Back then, they were mocked. But then, bits and pieces of truth began washing up on shore massive. Mutilated squid bodies with tentacles like tree trunks, their flesh slashed or torn, as if from titanic battles no one ever witnessed. The giant squid is real. It's not just big, it's alien. Its body contains no bones, no hard frame. It can squeeze itself through crevices that seem far too small for something its size. Its nervous system is scattered, its brain decentralized. Its arms, each potentially over 10 meters long, are lined with hundreds of serrated suckers, the kind that leave perfect circular scars carved deep into whale skin like reminders from another world. And yet, for all that, we barely know anything about them. Most sightings come from corpses washed ashore, damaged, dismembered, missing tentacles or heads. It's as if these creatures do not want to be known, as if the ocean itself is protecting them, revealing only fragments. Just enough to let us know they exist without ever giving away the full picture. Scientists believe they dwell more than 1,000 meters below the surface, where the pressure could crush a human in seconds. Down there, there's no light, no sound, only cold. A different kind of existence, slower, stranger, and far more patient. And in that silent void, the giant squid floats, waiting. What do they eat? Likely fish? Other squids? Maybe even each other? But some evidence suggests they fight sperm whales not just as prey, but in battle. The scars tell the story. Tooth marks from whales, sucker imprints from squids. A war waged in darkness, with no victor known, no witnesses, only wounds. And here's where the fear truly sets in. Intelligence. While we can't study giant squids easily, their closest relatives, octopuses and cuttlefish, are some of the smartest invertebrates known to science. They can solve puzzles, remember faces, escape enclosures. And if the giant squid shares even a fraction of that intellect, paired with its size and power, we're talking about a predator with both brute force and tactical thinking. They don't need to surface, don't make noise, don't migrate visibly. They live in the kind of darkness that makes time itself feel irrelevant. And from that place they observe, they wait, and sometimes they act. Old seafaring tales from northern Europe describe nights when the sea went still, mirror flat. No wind, no waves. Sailors would speak of moments when massive, tentacle-like shadows began to rise from the water. At first, mistaken for drifting kelp or floating logs. But when touched, they were cold and alive. Those who touched them did not always live to tell the tale. Modern science calls it folklore. Folklore is not born from nothing. And what the giant squid leaves behind, whether a washed-up limb or an unsettling feeling in the pit of a sailor's stomach, is always the same message. There are things in this world you're not supposed to understand. When we think of predators, we often imagine fangs, claws, a chase through the forest, a final roar. But in the Arctic deep, where silence is king and light has no dominion, predators don't roar, they don't chase, they wait, they drift, they strike only when the moment is right. The giant squid, so rarely seen, so poorly understood, is the most haunting reminder that not all hunters need to be found, to be feared. Because even if you never see it, you'll always wonder if it's there watching, waiting just beneath the surface. Not all Arctic predators have skin or scales. Some have sleek bodies, high intelligence, and a calm, eerie coordination that can only be described as calculated. Unlike the ancient patience of the Greenland shark or the raw, cold-blooded strength of the polar bear, or even the nightmarish presence of the giant squid, these hunters don't rely on darkness or silence alone. They rely on each other. Enter the orca, known to most as the killer whale. But in the Arctic, killer isn't just a name, it's a legacy. These are not just large dolphins with dramatic black and white coloring. They are apex predators not because of size or ferocity, but because of strategy, precision, and adaptability. In the Arctic, the orca is not feared because it is violent. It is feared because it is smart. An adult male orca can grow up to 8 meters long and weigh over 6 tons. Despite their size, they move with unnerving grace. Their speed is formidable, their sonar is like natural radar, and their ability to communicate flawless. But what makes orcas truly terrifying is that they hunt in coordinated groups, like wolves of the sea, and their methods vary, depending on who they're hunting. If the prey is a seal on a floating sheet of ice, the orcas don't panic or charge. They line up side by side, then dive beneath the ice. On cue, they generate a synchronized wave just enough to tip the ice, causing the seal to slip into the water. In moments, the hunt is over. The ice isn't broken. The seal doesn't stand a chance. And the entire process is quiet, clinical, perfect. They don't stop at seals. Orcas have been documented targeting narwhals, belugas, and even whales far larger than themselves. They isolate the young or the weak, use decoys to distract protective parents, and communicate using clicks, whistles, and pulses to coordinate without alerting prey. No bloodlust, no chaos. It's just a ruthless efficiency that makes every hunt seem rehearsed. In one chilling incident, a pod of orcas in the Arctic was observed chasing a bowhead whale calf. The mother tried to shield it with her body. The orcas didn't engage her directly. Instead, they rotated shifts, some distracting, some diving under, some ramming from the sides. Over hours, they wore down the mother's energy, eventually dragging the calf away. It wasn't a feeding frenzy. It was a siege, and they won. But what makes orcas even more haunting is that they learn. Their hunting methods aren't just instinctual, they're cultural. In different parts of the Arctic, different pods use different tactics, passed down from generation to generation. One group may prefer ice wave techniques, another may specialize in herding fish into tight balls and striking in unison. These aren't mindless creatures. These are intelligent predators with memory, planning, and even play. Yes, play. Orcas have been observed toying with prey after it's dead, tossing seals into the air, dragging animals underwater only to let them escape and repeat the chase. Is it practice? Is it pleasure? No one knows for sure. But it reveals a chilling truth. These predators don't just kill to eat, sometimes they kill to learn, or worse, to entertain. And orcas remember. There are stories from Arctic communities of orcas recognizing specific boats, avoiding known hunting vessels, or even tracking fishing routes to snatch caught fish off long lines without ever being seen. Some call them thieves, others call them ghosts. The line between intelligence and malevolence begins to blur when you realize they know exactly what they in. It's redoing it. They re better at it than we are. But not everything about them is monstrous. Within their pods, orcas show stunning emotional depth. They grieve. They protect. Mothers have been seen carrying dead calves for days, refusing to let them sink. Older siblings guard younger ones. Injured members are helped to the surface to breathe. This empathy, this social structure, only adds to the contradiction. How can something so capable of love also be so capable of surgical, organized killing? That's what makes them one of the Arctic's most terrifying hunters, because they aren't driven by desperation or madness or primal rage. They kill with calm. They stalk with purpose. And they learn from every encounter. They're not beasts, they're minds. And the Arctic, as harsh as it is, has shaped them into perfect machines of survival. The ice is their hunting ground, the cold their camouflage. The soundless waters are their playground, and anything that enters, whether fish, seal, whale, or man, is something they can analyze, calculate, and if they choose, eliminate. When you see an orca's dorsal fin break the water, it's already too late to run. When you hear their eerie calls echo through the sea, the hunt has already begun. There's no terror quite like realizing you're not just being chased by something wild, but something intelligent. Something that doesn't just want to catch you, but wants to understand you. In the end, it's not the blood or the violence that makes them horrifying. It's the control, the clarity. The idea that somewhere in those black eyes, there's not hunger, but thought, and thought in a predator. It's the most terrifying thing of all. The Arctic may look like a lifeless wasteland at first glance, just a frozen sheet stretching into the horizon. Silent, still, and void. But now you know better. Beneath that deceptive calm is a world where the deadliest hunters are not the loudest, not the biggest, not even the most aggressive. They are the most patient, the most strategic, the most adapted, and sometimes the most unknowable. But there is one more predator that lurks in the Arctic one that no fang, claw, or fin can match. It doesn't stalk through the snow like the polar bear. It doesn't drift through the centuries like the Greenland shark. It doesn't strike from the abyss like the squid, nor coordinate like the orca. Yet it is more dangerous than all of them combined. It's us, humans. The Arctic's greatest predator doesn't have sharp teeth or tentacles. It has machines, drills, data, plans. While the Greenland shark silently outlives entire civilizations, we slice through ice with steel ships. While the polar bear paces in search of disappearing seals, we set up oil rigs and lay submarine cables. While the orca perfects generations of hunting tactics, we send in sonar that scrambles their communication. We are not part of the Arctic, we are its disruption. Climate change has turned the frozen north into a battlefield, and we didn't come to survive. We came to claim. The ice is melting at a rate faster than ever recorded, opening up shipping routes once locked away for millennia. Entire ecosystems are shifting, unraveling, as temperatures rise and ice disappears, and the hunters we've met so far. They're starving, retreating, vanishing. The polar bear, now forced inland, enters villages in search of garbage, emaciated, confused, and no longer afraid. Orcas shift their migration patterns, entering waters once too cold or too ice-covered, pushing out other species. Greenland sharks may soon find their long glacial world warming beyond their tolerance. And deep below, even the elusive giant squid must reckon with the changing currents and dying prey. They adapt. But we consume. There are places in the Arctic where drilling platforms burn lights into the night sky, where noise pollution echoes through the deep. The Arctic used to be ruled by predators that took only what they needed. We take everything: fish, fuel, space, quiet, balance. But here's the twist. In trying to conquer the Arctic, we're waking something far older, far colder chaos. Thawing permafrost releases ancient gases, accelerating global warming. Melting ice sheets raise sea levels that threaten cities thousands of miles away. The fragile equilibrium of predator and prey collapses, leading to extinction cascades we can't stop once they start. We aren't just the Arctic's top predator. We may be the last. And perhaps that's the most terrifying fact of all. Because unlike the other hunters who exist within the system of nature, who take, give back, die, and renew, we remain outside of it. We've forgotten what it means to be part of an ecosystem, to belong to a cycle. Instead, we dominate until there's nothing left to dominate. And yet, despite this power, despite this reach, despite the technology and satellites and machines, we are also vulnerable. We are not built for the cold, not built to breathe underwater, and not built to survive without our tools, our systems, our comforts. One mistake, one storm, one blackout, and all our dominance turns into fragility. We are not gods in the Arctic. We're intruders. The Greenland shark will still be there, gliding beneath ice we can't penetrate. The polar bear may retreat deeper into the snow, away from our noise. The orca will listen in silence from below, and the squid, who knows where the squid waits. But they'll all remember us, not as prey, not as predators, but as a force that didn't play by the rules, a force that broke the game board entirely. So next time you think of the Arctic as a blank frozen nothingness, remember this: it's alive. It breathes in silence, it hunts in stillness, and it listens. And maybe, just maybe, it waits. Waits for the day we finally realize we were never at the top of the food chain. We were just guests, and the ice always remembers.